Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Jamanatira Vanachadi Jamanatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradyadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradyadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradyadi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivaradyadi Jasodanandana Vrajajanarandana Jasodanandana Vrajajanarandana Jamanatira Vanachadi Jamanatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Vishnupad Paribasha Sutra Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Gora Premanandi. This is the third week in the row for our Indianapolis online devotees. This is their Sunday program, live at noon, Indianapolis time. So last week, as a reminder, those of you from Indianapolis, we discussed the first four of the 6 questions and 6 answers from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1. So a little review for those of you who may not have been with us last week. The format of the Puranas in general, and the Bhagavatam in particular, is the question-answer format. And it's a standard method for teaching or instructing, questions, answers. And those answers lead to more questions, lead to more answers, lead to more questions, and so forth. The whole of the Bhagavatam unfolds on the basis of questions and answers. And the first 3 chapters of Canto 1 are essence questions for the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam. One could say, by understanding these first 3 chapters, you at least have an essence of the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam that then gets expanded and expanded. Further questions and answers. So, Canto 1, Chapter 1, in addition to the Mangala Charana introduction to the chapter, the first 3 verses of Chapter 1 are speaking about the Srimad Bhagavatam in general terms, and its speaker, Shukadeva Goswami, in general, giving some of the qualities within the Bhagavatam and the qualities of the speaker, Shukadeva. The scene opens in the forest of Naimisharanya, a holy place, where it is known that being the hub of the universe, when sacrifice is performed at that place, the benefit goes to the whole universe, because it's the hub of the universe. So sages went to Naimisharanya forest, and their plan was to conduct an extended yajna, a 1,000-year yajna, meaning when one yajna is finishing, another starts, and so forth, continuing, for extended time, for 1,000 years. But the purpose of that yajna was to diminish the negative influences of the age of Kali, because the sages knew, first of all, that Krishna had departed, and then that meant that the next yuga was beginning. So at the beginning of this next yuga, Kali Yuga, in that juncture period, after Krishna's departure, they wanted to minimize the influence, the negative influences of the age of Kali by performance of yajna. And in their midst, they came to know that a person who heard the entire Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami was in their midst, and they wanted to hear from him. So the way that they approached him is first offering praises of the qualifications of him as a speaker. They then presented some questions. There were 6 questions in Canto 1, Chapter 1. And Chapters 2 and 3 are responses to those questions. So we discussed in Chapter 2 the first 4 questions and their answers. And one of those questions was a very good question. What's the all-around good for all living entities of all time? And devotional service to the all-good personality of Godhead is all good for everyone at all times. And what is that subject matter that one should always hear, chant, and remember? What's the duty of a person who is about to die? So here, the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, then it gives the reasons why. And the method, by hearing where there's no expectation of gain, ahaitukiya pratyata, and where it cannot be checked by anything, then yenatma suprasidati, the living entity can become fully satisfied. Another question was, what's the purpose of the Lord's appearance? This is Canto 1. He creates the world, then he appears in the world. What's the purpose? And the purpose is to reclaim those who are, 2 purposes, those who are in the quality of goodness, to reclaim them back to the spiritual world, and the others to attract their hearts and their minds to the realm of transcendence. And so the end of Canto 1, Chapter 2 is a prelude to what's going to come now, this today, midday, in Indianapolis, this next question. The next question is, please describe the forms of the Lord as they appear in this world. Well, the fourth question was forms of the Lord specific to creation. So that's the Purusha avatars. Purusha avatars means forms of Vishnu. Three forms of Vishnu that are involved in the activities of creation. That's Mahavishnu, or Karnana Dakshayi Vishnu. Mahavishnu creates the universes. Garbho Dakshayi Vishnu enters into each of the universes. Shiro Dakshayi Vishnu enters within every atom of every universe. And these three Vishnu forms, they're involved with the process of creation. And then the avatars of Vishnu. So, Canto 1 chapter about the Purusha avatars. And it's continuing to be responsive to the earlier question about the forms of the Lord specific to creation. So that's text. Now we're going to do a summary of the 34 verses of chapter 3. The fifth question is answered in chapter 3, verses 6 through 27. So we're not going to go through them all. But the question specifically, O wise Sutta, please narrate to us the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Godhead's multi-incarnations, such auspicious adventures and pastimes of the Lord, the Supreme Controller, are performed by His internal powers. So it's implicit, almost explicit in their question. They want to hear about the Leela avatars. So because there's 6 different categories, it's a little technical, but the first has already been described, the Purusha avatars. Purusha avatars, again, meaning forms of Vishnu dealing with creation. Then another category of the 6 is Leela avatars. So the Leela avatars are described in verses 6 through 27. And they're not exactly chronological, more or less chronological, but there's some, they're out of sequence, chronological sequence of forms of the Lord that appear in the world, performing various pastimes. And in that list, that's text 6 through 27, 22 Leela avatars are mentioned, and in that list of 22 is Krishna. Now, let's say it again, because it's important. Of the 22 Leela avatars, Krishna is a Leela avatar. In this types of, because avatar means one who descends. From the spiritual world into this world, he descends. That's avatar. And Krishna's in that list, and they're avatars of Vishnu. And then comes this very important verse. We got our trumpet and drum roll. Do, 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 do. Very important verse. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Very important verse. Is 1:3:28. 1:3:28. It's so special that it has a special name. Paribasha Sutra. Paribasha Sutra. I'll explain it and then I'll read what Jiva Goswami writes. It's a verse that generally comes towards the beginning of a text, and the whole rest of the text is resting upon that one verse. There's 18,000 verses, so 17,999 are resting on this one verse. It's very strong. And if one wants to properly understand any of the 17,999 verses, it must be transparently connected to this one verse. And if you have a meaning that's different than this one verse, you've misunderstood it. You have to go back and fix your misunderstanding, because it must be transparently connected to this one verse. Very important verse. It governs the whole text. So it's a very important verse. Now, I'm going to read Jiva Goswami's explanation. It's found in Krishna Sandarbha. I think I should explain a little bit what Jiva Goswami's Sandarbhas are, because it adds weight to what I'm going to read in a moment. One of Jiva Goswami's 3 different commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam is the Sandarbhas, and it's topic by topic commentary. And it's commentary on Vedanta Sutra, because during the time of Lord Chaitanya, there was no need for a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Srimad Bhagavatam is the author's own commentary on Vedanta Sutra, so there's no need to duplicate what the author has explained. You can write commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, but commentary on Vedanta Sutra is already there in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Jiva Goswami is very clever and brilliant. He didn't make a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, but he made a commentary on Vedanta Sutra by making a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam that practically verse by verse is explaining Vedanta Sutra. Very clever. I don't know if you're all interested in hearing about that, but someone here is interested. So he explains, like a good scholar will do, Jiva Goswami explicitly, he explains how he's going to lay out the whole Sandarbhas. And it has 3 parts. He's going to make statements. And then the statements will be supported by Srimad Bhagavatam to verify the statement. And then the third part is other literatures, especially commentary by Sridhar Swami, who's accepted by Lord Chaitanya as the principal commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. He'll be cited, and he gives a list of where the other references that he's going to draw from come from, other scriptures. That's his other authoritative reference, so that's the third part. So again, the 3 parts. Succinct statement, just like boom. And then Srimad Bhagavatam supports the statement. And then other literatures support the Srimad Bhagavatam statement, including other Srimad Bhagavatam references or other things. Padma Purana, this one, that one. And then he'll say, a doubting person, a Purva-paksha person will say, well, wait a minute, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then to that da-da-da-da person, here's the reply. And they're not going to like my reply, they'll say da-da-da-da-da-da. And then to that I'll say such and such. Then he goes back to the statement before he moves on to the next. And that's the methodology. Now the statement happens to be Vedanta Sutra. And his explanation of what Vedanta Sutra says is found in Srimad Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam is a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. It's a commentary of Vedanta Sutra without making a commentary of Vedanta Sutra. Pretty cool, huh? And his overarching strategy was three things. He is an ardent follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he wants, like any follower of someone, wants to say that he's the best. So here's how he does it. It's three parts. Of all sources of knowledge, pramana is the Sanskrit term. Means of knowing something is pramana. There's a really fancy English word, epistemology. Woo, epistemology. What does that mean? It means how you know something. Like, how do you know we're sitting in the room? How do you know anything? How do you know you exist? How do you know anything? How do you know anything? What to speak of transcendence? How do you know transcendence? For that matter, how do you know anything? So there's different sources of knowing things. And you go through, a step by step demonstration that Srimad Bhagavatam is the best means of knowing anything. What to speak of transcendence? That's the first part. The second part is Srimad Bhagavatam is the same as the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So guess what the third step is? The highest truth is the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Mission accomplished. So the hard work is Lord Chaitanya's teachings are the same as the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. But that's a strategy. Along with a commentary on Vedanta Sutra or commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. So Vedanta Sutra, we learned this from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It has three parts, which ISKCON devotees are quite familiar with. Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. What that means is all things have a relationship with the source of all things. Sambandha again, knowledge of the relationship of all things and how they connect with the source of all things. And that's the largest part of Vedanta Sutra. There's 2 of 4 parts in Vedanta Sutra that are on that, Sambandha Gyan. And then the second one is, when you act in that relationship, what does it look like? That's Abhideya Gyan. And then the final one is, what's the fruit of acting in that relationship with the source of everything? And that's it, that's Vedanta Sutra. So the Sandarbhas has the same divisions. And there's 4 parts to Sambandha. That makes, 4 plus 1 is 1 part to Abhideya, acting in the relationship. And then there's 1 part, there's the conclusion. When you act in the relationship, what's the fruit? So the last 2, they're easy, Bhakti Sandarbha and Priti Sandarbha. The activities of acting in the relationship and the fruit, Priti Sandarbha. So then the first 4 go like this. Tattva Sandarbha, Bhagavat Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, Bhagavat Sandarbha, Krishna Sandarbha. And there's a logic to that sequence, which I don't think I'm going to go into. But in the Krishna Sandarbha, he gets, the drum roll, the trumpet out, da, 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 da. This verse is really important to understand what's the source of everything. And that's this verse. In Krishna Sandarbha, here's what he writes. Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, including all incarnations. So here's the definition of Paribasha Sutra. Paribasha Sutra is a definition of terms or systems of abbreviations placed in the beginning of a book which must be understood in order to properly understand the remainder of the book. A Paribasha Sutra explains the proper method for understanding a book. It gives the key by which one may understand the actual purport of a series of apparently unrelated facts and arguments. And then further, the Paribasha Sutra is only stated once in a book, and it is not repeated. These are rules, Sanskrit rules. A single Paribasha Sutra may govern the text of even a very large book with millions of statements or arguments. And he gives an example in one of Panini's writings on yoga. He states the Paribasha Sutra because Panini also states, this is my Paribasha Sutra in my book. It's a standard Sanskrit terminology. And then he goes on to write, Srimad Bhagavatam has such a Paribasha Sutra also. And he points it out, it's 1.328. This is referred to in Krishna Sandarbha this way. The third chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that's what we're discussing today, tells the secret of the Lord's birth and gives a summary of all the descriptions of the Lord's incarnations. Because it comes at the beginning of the book, and because it describes what will follow later on, its Eti Changsa Kala Pungsa verse is the Paribasha Sutra. So what does this Paribasha Sutra say anyways, if so important? It's really important. Well, they're forms of the Lord that appear in this world. They're avatars, and they're in the category, the same category of Vishnu Tattva, or they're Purushas, as opposed to living entities that are Jivas. They're absolute and supreme. And of all of them, one is the source of all of them. Amongst the avatars, one is, the Sanskrit term is avatari, the source of all avatars. And this verse states that Krishna is the avatari of all the avatars. So it goes like this. It says, same thing it says in other scriptures, these incarnations, they appear as incarnations of Vishnu. And Krishna is listed as an incarnation of Vishnu. And it says that Krishna is the source of all of them, including Vishnu. Which sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? If he is an avatar of Vishnu, how can he be the source of Vishnu? And really simple, practical explanation. Right over there is the door that we all walk through before coming into your living room. Now, before we walk through the door, we existed. We're existing, and then we're going to walk through the door. Go wherever the next place is. Maybe you may be staying here, but when you go out shopping and stuff, you go out the door. So, same. The forms of the Lord that appear in this world, they existed before they appeared in this world. They came through the Vishnu as avatars of Vishnu, but they have their realm in Vaikuntha, in the spiritual realm. And then they enter into this realm as avatars of Vishnu. And Krishna is the source of Vishnu, and he's the source of all the avatars of Vishnu. He's the source of everything. So that's what's being said in this verse, that because there's sambandha, that is, what's the relationship of all things with the source of all things? Well, they're emanations from, and incarnations are included of things that emanate, or entities that emanate from the source of everything. Krishna is that source of everything, including all the avatars. So then, That's text 28. We're only going to be going to text 34. No, excuse me, 43. 43. So that's 28. 29, and we've covered 5 of the questions and 5 of the answers. So 29 is got a nice name. It's called the Pala Stuti. Pala means fruit. So what's the fruit of stuti, of hearing all of this? And here's what text 29 says. Whoever carefully recites the mysterious appearances of the Lord with devotion in the morning and in the evening. We're doing it midday, but that's okay too. Gets relief from all miseries of life. That's only part of it. Because once you get relief from the miseries of life, what do? Well, it's engage in devotional service. It leads to what you do eternally in your spiritual form and spiritual consciousness in the spiritual realm. Then the next 10 verses, that's text 30 through 39, it's progressive, going from matter, seeing spirit in matter. I'll read the verses, 30 through 39, but this is a little gloss of what's coming up. Spirit in matter, and seeing all as spirit, and then finally the Paramatma and Bhagavan features of the Supreme. So we're including Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, but starting with matter and seeing spirit in matter. So it's worth reading them. So I'm going to read them, starting with text 30. Of course, it is bewildering. Whoops, that's the wrong chapter. Here we go. Our friend, the universal form. We're in the Hare Krishna movement. We're quite familiar with universal form from chapter 11 Bhagavad Gita. Krishna shows the universal form to Arjuna. Arjuna asks, if you feel I'm qualified, if you give me divine eyes to see, then please show me your universal form. So Krishna shows his universal form. So that's touched on here, starting with text 30. The conception of the Virat, universal form of the Lord, as appearing in the material world, is imaginary. Now, there's no Sanskrit word in the text that says imaginary, but it means imaginary in this sense. It appears and then it disappears. Like now you see it, now you don't. Just like our present form. How old are you? 7? Okay. And there was a time when you looked like your sibling, much younger, right? So that little younger body, gone. And your 7-year-old body, let's say in another 7 years, going to be gone. According to biology, medical science, every single cell in that body in a period of 7 years is eliminated and another cell takes its place. So that body that's sitting there right now, gone. Every single part of it in 7 years, gone. Then you turn 21. Let's hope you live a long life. You turn 21, And that's your third body you're working on. And then, it's an old timer like me. I've had 10 of them. And everyone's different. Gone. Forever gone. I can, see a baby picture. That's what I looked like when I was a baby. It's gone. So it's temporary. Not like you don't have a body. You got one. I've got one. For a while at least. And then it's gone. So Virat means it's temporary. Now you see it. Here's the universe. It's gone. Universal form. Now you see it. Now you don't. That's the universe. One of Krishna's forms is this universe. It is to enable the less intelligent and the neophytes to adjust to the idea of the Lord's having form, but factually, the Lord has no material form. Gives an example. Clouds and dust are carried by the air. But less intelligent persons say the sky is cloudy and the air is dirty. Well, air isn't dirty, it's carrying dirt. And clouds are in the sky, but the sky isn't cloudy. There's clouds within the sky and there's dirt within the air, but the air is, clean, pure, colorless, odorless, tasteless, etc. That's the quality of air. Similarly, they also implant material bodily conceptions on the spirit self. Beyond this gross conception of form is another subtle conception of form, which is without formal shape and is unseen, unheard, and unmanifest. The living being has his form beyond this subtlety. Otherwise, he could not have repeated births. So gross body, subtle body, mentioned already is the Virat Rupa, and that was just 2 verses. Whenever a person experiences by self-realization that both the gross and subtle bodies have nothing to do with the pure self, at that time he sees himself as well as the Lord. That's a nice verse. If you want to see Krishna, you have to let go of the bodily conception and the subtle material conception. You still have a body and you still have a subtle body, a mind, intelligence, ego, but you don't identify with it. And when you go beyond that identification, you can see who you are, and you can see the Lord. Text 34. If the illusory energy subsides, and if the living entity becomes fully enriched with knowledge by the grace of the Lord, then he becomes at once enlightened with self-realization, and thus becomes situated in his own glory. Thus, learned men describe the births and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undiscoverable even in the Vedic literatures. He is the Lord of the heart. Now we're moving to the Paramatma conception. We move from Virat to the soul, beyond the coverings of the soul, fixed in consciousness and proper knowledge, seeing the super soul. And now we're going to move on to the Bhagavan feature. The Lord, whose activities are always spotless, is the master of the 6 senses and is fully omnipotent with 6 opulences. That's Bhagavan. He creates the manifested universes. That's the Purusha, Avatar of Vishnu forms, maintains them and annihilates them without being in the least affected. He is within every living entity and is always independent. Just 2 more verses. The foolish with the poor fund of knowledge cannot know the transcendental nature of the forms, names, and activities of the Lord, who is playing like an actor in a drama. Nor can they express such things, neither in their speculations nor in their words. Only those who render unreserved, uninterrupted, favorable service onto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who carries the wheel of the chariot in his hand, can know the creator of the universe in his full glory, power, and transcendence. And then finally, only by making such inquiries in this world can one be successful and perfectly cognizant, for such inquiries invoke transcendental ecstatic love unto the personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of all the universes, and guarantee 100% immunity from coronavirus. No. From the dreadful repetition of birth and death. They're still working on the flu shots. They're almost done with the chapter. The remaining verses are a response to the last of the 6 questions. So the last of the 6 questions are a really good question. And it goes like this. The age of Kali has begun. This is Canto 1, Chapter 1. The age of Kali has begun. This is the sages, they knew already. And it's a bad time for living entities that are on earth during Kali Yuga. And bad this, that, the other, bad situation. When Krishna was present, just by his walking on the earth, the impressions of his feet on the earth made everything auspicious on earth, and everything was there in bountiful supply. But Krishna's gone. So where's the protection of religious principles now that Krishna is gone? Good question. And the answer is, shortly after the departure of Krishna from earth, the Bhagavatam has appeared. It's something like which direction is west? Where's the sun rise? This way. Sunrise is over here. So the sun sets over here. So when the sun sets over there, it becomes dark. And my little watch tells me the sun sets, come on, 8:08. Sun sets. But then it becomes dark, but over there, if the moon rises on the eastern horizon, then we get light. It's just reflected light. But in this case, after Krishna's departure in the west, over on the other horizon, the Bhagavatam appears, and it's cooling like the moonlight, and as brilliant as the sun. That's the poetry. So sun, in Chicago it doesn't get so hot, but there are places on earth during the summertime, scorching hot. You can die. And sunstroke, and you can die. So the sun gives light, but it can be sometimes scorching. But the moonlight is always cool and soothing. So when when Krishna comes, he kills the demons. You're disturbing the devotees, and you're making grave offenses. So I'm going to relieve you of your life airs and liberate you. So, but it seems intense sometimes. The Supreme Lord, when he appears in person to annihilate the demons, it's like the scorching heat. But when the Bhagavatam appears, it's cooling like the moon. It takes away the bad qualities of the people in this age of Kali just by hearing. We don't have to get killed. We just have to get purified. And the atmosphere that we're in is unwholesome. We may be wholesome people, or trying to be at least, but the atmosphere is very unwholesome, and it's not easy to stay wholesome. in an unwholesome atmosphere. So the shelter is then provided in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam for those who wish to stay sanctified and purified and wholesome and be protected by religious principles, even in an unprotected, unsafe, risky environment. The age of Kali is that kind of a place. So that's the concluding section of the question. I'll just read the question. It's from Bhagavatam 1.1.23. Since Sri Krishna, the Absolute Truth, the Master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us to whom the religious principles have now gone for shelter. And the answer is 1.3.43, and I'm going to read 43 and then 44 and we're finished. 43 reads, this Bhagavat Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna for his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to this dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. And a little comment is, when Srila Prabhupada was introducing the Bhagavatam to the Eastern culture, people of the Far East, he had an artist from China that was really gifted to make traditional Chinese art to go along with a description that's from the Srimad Bhagavatam describing the features of the seasons through verses of the Bhagavatam that then give lessons of the Bhagavatam. So we called it the light of the Bhagavat. Following this verse, 43, the light of the Bhagavat is brilliant as the sun. And traditional Chinese art with a little statement from the Bhagavatam, and then some philosophical understanding of how to lead your life in relation to Krishna. So it wasn't like strong emphasis on the personality of Godhead, because people in the East, they don't relate to that so well. But it was according to their culture. The art was according to their culture, and the way of expressing was according to their culture. So to introduce them to the Bhagavatam in that method is very creative. I've seen a photograph of the lady that did that artwork. I don't know how he found her, or somebody found her. A celebrated lady. She really appreciated what she was doing, the purpose for which she was doing and the subject matter. So it was really well done. Light of the Bhagavat was the name of the book. And it was printed in English and printed in Japanese and printed in Chinese. So Far Eastern languages. Here's the final verse of the chapter. O learned Brahmanas, so this is Sutta responding to the questions of the sages. When Shukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam there, in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention. And thus, by his mercy, I learned the Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage, that's Shukadeva. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him and as I have realized it. And rapt attention is how it works. That sound vibration is a way to restore our pure consciousness, to cleanse the contaminations and reawaken the pure consciousness. But you have to be attentive. And this rapt attention is described in this way. This is the final words of chapter 3. The secret. Want to know a secret? It's a secret, I can't tell you. But I'll tell you anyways, okay? Okay. the secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. Nor can one be pure in mind who is not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But somehow or other, if someone hears with rapt attention from the right person, at the very beginning, one can assuredly see Lord Sri Krishna in person in the pages of the Bhagavatam. You see him? We have to give rapt attention. Then we could see him. And then there's this procedure for rapt attention. Pure in mind, pure in action, pure in eating, sleeping, mating, defending, but towards rapt attention. So that ends this little section, the 6 questions and 6 answers. So this is intended to be the Sunday program for the Indianapolis devotees. And we can take questions or discussion points from the Indianapolis Prabhus or people in the room. I think we'll give favor to the Indianapolis Prabhus. And do we have a portable microphone?
Yes.
Okay. Wasn't so bad, was it?
Hare Krishna devotees, please unmute yourself and speak up if you have any questions.
Oh, they can speak. They don't have to send a text message. Oh, you got a Zoom call going. Oh, okay. Okay. Gopal Hari, you can hang on at the end because you want to do your japa session at the end. Nobody. Okay. We have some over here, yes? No? Okay. Anybody in the room have a question? All right. Hold the microphone right up to your mouth. Let's go.
Why does Vishnu have to expand his forms? He can just kill all the demons who are troubling the devotees in one form and then go.
I don't understand the question. Do you understand the question? Say it.
He was asking if Krishna has to kill all the demons. There are so many demons that come and they are working against the devotees. Why does he have to take so many different incarnations?
Oh, he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to do anything. We have to do something, but he doesn't. He does for his pleasure. Let me ask you, what's your favorite prasadam? Gulab jamuns. Not pizza? You like gulab jamuns more than pizza? Okay. But there's varieties of things to eat, even that you may have some things that you really like especially. But, for good health, you take varieties of things. And plus, the other things are also nice besides gulab jamuns. If that's all you ate was gulab jamuns, you wouldn't be so healthy. So you eat other things. There's varieties of foods. There's also varieties of forms. Because after all, Krishna is the source of everything. And everything includes variety. So he appears like this, he appears like that. And there are devotees that are also filled with variety, so he appears like this and he appears like that to match the love of the devotees for him. Because He's the source of everything. So he accepts or manifests different forms to reciprocate with devotees in all the varieties of ways that devotees love him. He didn't have to do anything. But he reciprocates with his devotees and shows his variety. Okay? And I bet if we offered you pizza, you wouldn't say no. Okay.
I had a quick question, Maharaj, about Vishnu and Krishna and how Krishna comes through Vishnu. Okay, maybe I'll let them. Because until I read 1328 the first time, I was not able to, I was not completely convinced in the fact that Krishna is the
Avatari.
avatari. Although, I did believe that Krishna is the supreme, but when he comes here, it seems like he's coming through Vishnu. And I've had these questions asked because of the fact that we also in India there's a lot of debate over this.
It's common.
Right. So, do we see Krishna taking the vehicle of Mahavishnu to enter this? Because when he comes in front of Devaki as well, he comes in the form of like Narayan and Vishnu, and then he takes the form of the baby. And then I think when Arjuna...
I get the background, but I don't get what your question is.
Yeah, how do we see Krishna taking, do we see him taking birth and in Devaki's womb? Does he, and when he comes to the material world, does he have to go through this, door of,
Same as your son's question. He doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to do anything. He can appear without Devaki. He can just, poof, there he is, and then poof, there he's gone. He doesn't need anybody's anything.
Yeah, I guess the question is when there is an argument, or when in the Bhakti Vriksha setting, or somewhere where there is a question saying, Mahavishnu.
I grew up hearing that Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. How do you guys get away with saying that Krishna is the source of everything?
Yes. How do you answer that question? I guess is like.
Well, I tried to answer it, but I'll try again, and I'm not going to say something so much different than what I said before. But you could see if it takes care of what your question is, and if not, we'll hand you the microphone. You can explore further. Okay, but let's see if I'll address them because I think he already knows. Vedanta, the very first sutra of Vedanta is Ataha Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Jigyasa means inquire. Ataha means now. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now, human form of life. This is meant for inquiring into that which is the source of everything. Brahman, the absolute truth. Inquire into the absolute truth. What's the source of everything? Next aphorism. Janmad yasya yataha. What's that mean? The absolute truth is that from which everything comes. So that's the question. What is it from which everything comes? That's the question. And the answer is 1.3.28. That from which everything comes is Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. So how do we understand that? That's the question. Because we're used to hearing Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu, and now you're saying Krishna is the source of Vishnu, although it also says he's an avatar of Vishnu. Sounds like double talk, Prabhu. So what's going on here? How do we understand this? Okay, rather than challenging, it's just I want to understand. So there's this material world where incarnations come, where avatars appear, and there's the place from which they appear. They appear from the eternal kingdom of God. We'll call that Vaikuntha. They're forms of the Lord in Vaikuntha, and from time to time, yada yada hi dharma shaglani, when there's discrepancies in dharma, from the Vaikuntha realm the Lord appears. And he appears in this way. What's that way? As Avatar Vishnu. So I gave a very simple explanation. Vishnu is like the doorway, and the avatars appear as avatars of Vishnu, but they're avatars that have their eternal residence in the spiritual realm, in Vaikuntha. So they can appear however they want to appear. They can appear however. So here's a little example. You know the story of Ashvatthama tried to kill the womb, the child in the womb of Uttara. Right? He sent a Brahmastra weapon, and here comes the Brahmastra weapon. Shh, fire. And what does Uttara do, the mother? She turns to Krishna and prays very loudly, please protect the child in my womb. Let this Brahmastra kill me, that's okay, but protect the child in my womb. Oh, Krishna. So what does Krishna do? He appears and he checks the Brahmastra because he's all powerful. Brahmastra means it's you can't stop it. There's no counter to the Brahmastra weapon except one thing, Krishna. And Krishna stopped it. And when he was stopping the Brahmastra, the child in the womb, Maharaj Parikshit, saw Krishna. He was doing two things at one time. He was giving Parikshit darshan, and he's still in the womb, but he saw Krishna in the womb. And he never forgot Krishna his whole life. And that's what his name means. Parikshit means examiner. Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? So, question. When Krishna protected Maharaj Parikshit from within the womb, where did he appear from? And afterwards, where did he go to? Good question, huh? I used to ask that question as a brahmachari. I was puzzled, and it was one of those questions that never got an answer. Because he doesn't have to come from anywhere. And he doesn't have to go to anywhere because he's everywhere. Like Prahlad. You know the story of Prahlad? Hiranyakashipu, his demoniac father, wanted to kill Prahlad. You know that story? Then Lord Nrsingadev came out of a pillar. You don't know that story. They'll tell you the story later. Okay. So when Hiranyakashipu said, Prahlad, you're more powerful than me. And I'm the most powerful person in the universe. You're more powerful than me. Where are you getting your power from? And his answer was, from the same place you are, Dad. From Vishnu. Oh, Vishnu. Where is this Vishnu? I'll kill him. He's everywhere. Oh, he's everywhere. Is he in this pillar? He's everywhere, Dad. I mean, there's no place where he's not. Because Paramatma, this form of Vishnu, is within every atom, not only within the pillar. So to avatars are avatars of Vishnu, who is everywhere, But they have their existence before their avatars. They have their existence in Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is not part of the material realm. Atoms are. And Paramatma is within the material realm. Paramatma is not in the spiritual realm. Bhagavan is in the spiritual realm. And Paramatma is his expansion in this material realm. Say it again. Paramatma is his expansion. There's a Sanskrit phrase. One says angsa and the other is kala. Kala means a portion. This is, Bhakti Siddhanta's words. A portion of a plenary portion. So Vishnu doesn't have the fullness of Bhagavan. Doesn't have any pastimes. Doesn't have any associates. It's just Paramatma. Portion of a plenary portion. Doesn't have the fullness of Bhagavan. Bhagavan has in fullness. So these forms of Bhagavan appear. Krishna is one of the forms of Bhagavan. He appears as an avatar of Vishnu, but he's more than Vishnu. He's the source of Vishnu. And of all the avatars, one is the source of all the avatars. And they came through the door. Avatars of Vishnu. Bhagavan appears, so greater than Paramatma is Bhagavan, and Bhagavan appears as an avatar of Vishnu. But he shows his Bhagavan feature. He performs activities. He has a mother and father. Does Vishnu have a mother? Does Paramatma have a mother and father? No way. Does he have a brother, Balaram? No way. He has activities. He has bhagas. He has opulences. And he does things with those opulences. Like we're just discussing in the evening class, he's showing the whole universe inside the mouth of Mother Yasoda. And that's one of his bhagas. His Aishvaryas, his features of opulence. Paramatma doesn't do that. So,
that the door actually, I did not see door as Mahavishnu, and that made it like super cool.
but it's not. So then let's do this one. Does he appear as A, B, or C, or D? An avatar of Mahavishnu, avatar of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, avatar of Kshirodaksha Vishnu, or all three? Because some places it says this, that, sometimes it says the other and the other.
Right. I think even in like the beginning, there's like Prabhupada's purport also mentions.
Yes. So, but it's not contradictory. It's not like if it says it can't be that, because the Vishnu forms are one entity, just different functions.
Thank you, Mother. Yeah, that's really helpful.
Now, is this important or not? Maybe it's just like technical mumbo jumbo and really, gosh, who cares anyways? But if you want to connect with the source of everything, you need to know what is the source of everything. And it's not like you can't become a good person or even a pure soul. You can't attain the kingdom of God unless you know all this mumbo jumbo, or all these. And I shouldn't say mumbo jumbo. All of these technicalities or refinements of transcendental knowledge. But if you want to love someone, it's good to know that someone, or if you're engaged in intimate association with someone, you'll come to know some of the things about that someone, and you want to know more about the someone because of the intimate association with them. That's what the Bhagavatam is. It's the intimate revelation of the details of that which is the source of everything. It's explaining Vedanta Sutra. What is it that's the source of everything? And one should be inquisitive to know. Brahma Jigyasa. And what is it? That which is the source of everything. Okay, what's the source of everything? Swayam Bhagavan Krishna is the source of everything. It doesn't mean that saying, it's right in the same chapter, Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. And then to say, and amongst all these avatars, one is the source of all the avatars, including Vishnu. Because Vishnu is an avatar, he's a Purusha avatar. One is the source of them all. What's that? Or who is that? Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. And then all the rest of the 17,999 verses are resting on that one verse. So we need to understand that one verse properly. Otherwise, we'll have another understanding. You don't have to say wrong understanding, but an incomplete understanding at least. But many, many times it's a wrong understanding, not just an incomplete understanding. And what to speak of then trying to understand Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, which is way up there in terms of what Krishna does, the intimate ways in which he associates with those who love him like anything. I mean, for them, there's nothing else. And he shows his opulences of Bhagavan, and they're not charmed with the opulences of Bhagavan. They're not wanting to be his devotee because he has all these opulences, and they feel like, I'm with this really opulent person, I feel good about things. They just love him. They're very special and very dear to Krishna, and Krishna is very dear to them. So to get to that place of the nature of the loving exchanges of Krishna in his home, it's just like, your family knows you because you live together. And people, you may have friends, they come to visit, but they don't know you like your family knows you. And in the office, they don't know you like your friends know you that come to visit you in your home. There's an intimacy in the exchanges of love in Vrindavan that people outside of Vrindavan don't understand. They don't understand it. And they hear about it and they don't understand it. Like, what's going on? But in Vrindavan, they just love Krishna. And even he shows whatever he shows, and they try to make sense of it. They understand whatever Krishna wants them to understand. And that's fine with them. Because the most important thing is their love for Krishna. And that's it's kind of an oversimplification, but it's the nature of the love of Vrindavan. And then there are persons that need to know more about Krishna than just what the residents of Vrindavan know. And so there's other places, there's other realms for those pure souls. And then there's realms for those that aren't so pure. And down and down and down and down. So there's a place to live for everybody, regardless of their consciousness. Do we have some? We're at 12:15, so it's 1:15 their time. Are we done, Gopal Hari? Technology's not working so well.
Yeah, Prabhu, we can go ahead, Prabhu. I'm not here, Prabhu. Wait one second. Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Go ahead, speak.
Hare Krishna.
Go ahead. We hear you.
Hare Krishna.
Please speak.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
We can hear you, Prabhu.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Prabhu. You can go ahead.
Hare Krishna, I can hear you, Prabhu. Please accept my obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Maharaj, for the very wonderful class. I I also had a question. Do we have time for questions, or
Please.
we need to end?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes. Yes. Maharaj, you mentioned in the beginning. Well, actually, one question on this discussion that you were having. In one place, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that I've heard that he says that every living soul has a relationship with Krishna in particular. But then that's the only place I've heard that. Is it the case that there's some devotees of Vishnu eternally and they don't have a relationship with Krishna? Or is everyone related with Krishna, and even in the spiritual world it's like a ladder to different places in the spiritual world? Is there any insight you could provide to us?
Okay, we're done. I heard your question. Can you hear my reply?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay. We're just going to shut you off for just a moment because it's echo over here. So, I don't have a clear answer to your question, other than something that I heard directly from Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And what I heard from Tamal Krishna Maharaj was as follows. Srila Prabhupada, each of us have an eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but is it fixed, or may one move from one position of rasa to another position of rasa? Now, this wasn't specific Vishnu versus Krishna, because when Prabhupada says all living entities have a relationship with Krishna, that could mean A or B. It could mean Krishna and Goloka, or it could mean Krishna, which includes all the expansions of Krishna, like saying Krishna is at the heart of every living entity. That's a Vishnu form or Paramatma form. So it could mean A or B when Prabhupada says all living entities have a relationship with Krishna. So back to Tamal's question, Prabhupada said the spiritual world is not static, it's dynamic, meaning one can move from one position to another position. Now, how is that done? Prabhupada didn't elaborate the technology or methodology, but primarily one moved from one situation to another situation by association. Here's another detail, Gopal Hari, that's similar but different. I had this extensive discussion with some scholars in ISKCON, the Shastra Advisory Committee group of people, on living entities. There's a statement that Prabhupada makes, and I can't remember exactly where it is, but somewhere like the eighth canto somewhere. Living entities, it's rare but possible to go from being situated in the realm of Brahman to the realm of Vaikuntha. And there's no explanation of methodology. So I asked our learned scholars, could you illuminate what this means and how to understand it? And there was no clear scriptural answer other than the principle that what must happen is through association only can such a thing happen. And, allusions were given to, for example, sometimes Vaikuntha residents, they travel into the material realm, and then they return to the spiritual realm, and while passing, they may give their association to someone that's in the Brahmajyoti or something like that. So that's just like notional, but it's just speaking principle through association. So in short, each of us have an eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, whether it's Vishnu or Krishna. So it's not like the residents that are in the Vaikuntha realm, they have mobility or the possibility of moving from Vaikuntha to Goloka or to Dwaraka or Vrindavan. Rather, they're very content with their position, and they're being fully satisfied with their position. They're not moving anywhere. They're going to stay where they are. So it's not a complete answer, a comprehensive answer. It's kind of directional, saying kind of like no. You don't move from Vaikuntha to Goloka.
That was very nice, Maharaj. Thank you for that. My second question, Maharaj. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. My second question is that beginning of the class, you mentioned how the Bhagavad says that it appears, the Lord appears to attack those who worship Him and deliver those who are suffering, respectively. And I was wondering how would you assess
The Bhagavatam itself does what?
Bhagavatam is written for the age of Kali, and in Kali Yuga, it appears that people who are not acceptable, they sometimes the most what does it mean to be acceptable? Is it like they're overall pious, and those people Krishna takes back, and then you mentioned the rest of the people are attracted, the remaining people are attracted to the Lord. Just that point, I was also wanting some clarification on that.
Well, let's look at Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he appeared in this dark age. And he involved himself with people that were in all kinds of modes. Big spectrum of colors, of modes. And he attracted them by his love and his potencies to love for Krishna. Not only love for Krishna, but love for Krishna in Braja. Braja Prem was his gift to the world. Now, the verse specifically is not addressing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The question is the purpose of the Lord's appearance, and the answer is given to those two reasons. So, in the age of Kali, how many people are in the mode of goodness? And what does it mean to be in the mode of goodness? Well, there's very few people in the mode of goodness. And mode of goodness is a relative term because it means more goodness than ignorance and passion. But where are the people like that in this age of Kali? Very few. And it becomes fewer and fewer through passage of time. So it's a relative statement in the mode of goodness. Relatively less ignorance and passion, relatively compared to others, more mode of goodness. It's a relative statement. But Lord Chaitanya, so that's in Kali Yuga, and Lord Chaitanya's appearance was for everybody. Everybody. I mean, the most unqualified, Jagai Madhai, and everybody, anybody else is above that. So, without qualification. At the same time, attracting the hearts and the minds of conditioned souls, in Kali Yuga, that's everybody, without question. So, I'm not sure I've understood your question, and therefore I'm not sure I've answered your question. But if you want to refine the question or say something further to help me understand what you're looking for, that may help. Did I hit it?
Well, my question was, it appeared from your statement that Krishna liberates those who are in the mode of goodness, and he attracts or brings them closer, those who are not in the mode of goodness. So those who are in the mode of goodness, they come back to Godhead. But those who are not, they become attracted to the Lord so that they move forward on the path. And that's what it seemed to me like you were saying in that verse was said. But
Well, that's general. That's as you're speaking your question, Putana, wasn't the mode of goodness, but she went, went to Goloka because of the very modest, meager little service that she did. So bhakti is the important principle, not what mode of nature one is in. But, he came to, consistent with what he says in Bhagavad Gita, pritranaya sadhunam. So he comes to give his association to the sadhus, those in the mode of goodness, and he delivers them. Now, what does that mean? It depends on, the receptivity to his association.
thank you, Maharaj. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yes.
And vinashaya chaduskritam, it depends, another nice discussion that I had recently with one sadhu named Bhanuswami was the destination of living entities that are killed by Krishna or by the forms of the Lord, not just Krishna. So there's a statement in Nectar Devotion or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that any time demons are killed, they're elevated. And they may at least be elevated to a position of opulence. Giving, for example, it's given, details are in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, when Hiranyakashipu was killed, he got a very opulent next life. And when Ravana that was Ravana, very opulent, with powers and wealth and, surpassed the demigods, although he's a demon, but because he was killed by the Lord. But he didn't have the right conception, so he didn't achieve liberation. And then Ravana, when he was killed, he didn't see that Ram as the personality of Godhead, so he got a very elevated birth in his next life. But he was inimical, Shishupal. So when the Lord comes in different ages, in different forms, in different situations, it's elevating benedictory. Rupa Goswami in both these books, Laghu Bhagavatamrita and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, says the same. They become elevated. They're not necessarily liberated. And that's people in the lower modes. But they may, Shishupal wasn't in the higher modes. And he got liberation. So much depends upon one's regard for the personality of Godhead. And there's a lot of variables in all of this. So the statement that I made isn't a cookie cutter statement. It's speaking in a general sense. Persons in the mode of goodness are delivered, and persons in lower modes are elevated. And then there's n number of details in what might happen to any given person in some situation or another.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. This is so nice. My last question was, you mentioned three things, and 2 and 3 of those was that the Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching the conclusion of Lord Chaitanya's teaching, and the third one was that Lord Chaitanya's teachings are the highest.
I got this from your brother, by the way. You probably have heard it from him also.
Yes, that he worked on the Sandarbhas.
So I heard him speaking on the Sandarbhas at ISV, and this was one of his messages. I just repeated his message. So go ahead, ask your question. I'm just interrupting you.
Yes. I missed the first one of that list.
The first one is that the highest of all teachings is Srimad Bhagavatam. The ultimate pramana is Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Srimad Bhagavatam is and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are the same. You know, A equals B, B equals C, and therefore A equals C.
Yes. Now, yes. Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much.
And his point was, your brother's point was, the greatest work was showing how the Bhagavatam and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are the same. So in one sense, that's what Chaitanya Charitamrita is as well. If you remind me, please remind me. Send me a little note, and I'll send you something that one devotee put together of Adi Lila and Madhya Lila and Antya Lila, chapter by chapter, how many references Krishna Das Kaviraj gives to many other scriptures to establish the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and how many of them are the Bhagavatam, and then what Bhakti Siddhanta says about it all. So remind me and I'll send it to you. I think you'll like it.
Okay, yes,
The teachings of Lord Chaitanya are the teachings of, and Srimad Bhagavatam are the one and the same. That's the middle part.
Yes, and as you mentioned, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is doing just that. He's showing how Lord Chaitanya and Bhagavatam are essentially the same.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. So I think we just, even if there's more questions, I think we should end. An hour and a half. Thank you very much, everybody. Prabhupada ki jai.
Today the technology is not working like normal, so our one round japa we can just do at home. I don't think technology.
Well, thank you.